UN Trade and Development Agency has reported that 2 years of war in Gaza, along with economic restrictions in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, have caused the worst collapse in the Palestinian economy ever recorded, wiping out decades of progress. According to the UNCTAD, the combined economy of the West Bank and Gaza shrank by 30% in 2024 compared with 2022. Gross domestic product per capita has fallen back to 2003 levels, erasing 22 years of development. UNCTAD economist Ramil Izza noted that per capita GDP is just $161 a year, about 44 cents a day. The report also stated that the West Bank is also facing its sharpest downturn on record, driven by access restrictions and the loss of economic opportunities. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development warns that aging populations are undermining economic growth across emerging Europe. EBRD chief economist Beta Javoric stated that post-communist nations are getting old before getting rich, with birth incentives failing and migration proving politically difficult. The bank recommends extending working lives through retaining and pension reforms as the most viable solution. Newer members like Nigeria were urged to capitalize on their fleeting demographic dividend. The European Automobile Manufacturers Association has said that European new car sales rose 4.9% in October, driven by strong demand for electric vehicles, though volumes remain below pre-pandemic levels. EU registrations climbed 5.8%, with battery electric sales up 38.6%, plug-in hybrids up 43.2%, and hybrids up 9.4%, bringing electrified vehicles to 63.9% of EU sales, up from 55.4% a year earlier. Germany saw sales rise 7.8%, the UK 0.5%, Spain 15.9%, and France 2.9%, while Italy slipped 0.5%. Battery electric cars reached a 16.4% market share so far this year, still short of the pace needed for the industry's transition. The Federal Statistics Office has said that the German economy stagnated in the third quarter of 2025 compared with the previous quarter, confirming its preliminary reading and underscoring the persistent challenges facing Europe's largest economy. The stagnation followed a 0.3% contraction in the previous quarter, with Germany narrowly avoiding a technical recession thanks to increased corporate investment in equipment. The data highlights continued struggles in Germany's export sector, which has been hampered by weak global demand and U.S. import tariffs. A Confederation of British Industry survey has revealed that UK retail confidence has plummeted to its lowest level since the 2008 financial crisis. The quarterly business sentiment index dropped to -35 as retailers brace for potential tax hikes in Wednesday's budget. The sales volume GOG remained deeply negative at -32, though expectations for the coming month improved slightly. Retailers cited weak consumer demand and budget uncertainty as key factors delaying investment and hiring decisions. A government review says that the UK has become the world's most expensive country to build nuclear plants, blaming overly complex regulations and fragmented oversight. The Nuclear Regulatory Task Force recommended a radical reset and a one-stop shop for approvals, which could save tens of billions. Task Force Chair John Fingleton said that simplifying rules could maintain safety while delivering nuclear capacity faster and more affordably. The UK plans new reactors as existing plants age. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband called the reforms crucial for a golden age of new nuclear, while critics argue that renewables and efficiency are more cost-effective. And still in Europe, Prime Minister Bart De Wever has announced that the Belgian government reached an agreement on its budget for next year after months of tense negotiations. The agreement includes tax hikes on share purchases, airplane tickets and natural gas, and a new tax on banks. Together with cuts in government spending, this should lower the government deficit by 9.2 billion euros by 2029. De Wever highlighted in a post on X that today the labor, tomorrow the fruit, adding that the deal and other reforms would improve Belgium's debt position by 32 billion euros. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced that the Russia-China Investment Fund has invested $1.3 billion in more than 40 projects since its establishment. Novak said that the Russia-China Investment Fund has facilitated over $7.9 billion in total investments when including partner capital. He emphasized the fund's central role in expanding bilateral economic ties. Novak also reaffirmed plans to increase the use of national currencies in trade settlements with China, describing the move as a strategic step to strengthen economic relations and reduce dependence on traditional reserve currencies. U.S. retail sales rose just 0.2% in September, falling short of expectations and signaling a slowdown from previous months. The Commerce Department's delayed report showed core retail sales, which exclude autos and gasoline, declined 0.1%. The data reveals a K-shaped consumer landscape, with higher income households continuing to spend while many others face pressure from rising costs and a softening labor market. Despite the moderation, economists maintain expectations for solid third-quarter GDP growth, with the Atlanta Fed projecting a 4.2% annualized rate ahead of the official December report. JP Morgan Chase Institute has reported that inflation pushed U.S. income growth back to levels last seen after the Great Recession, limiting consumer spending power ahead of the holiday season. The institute reports that inflation-adjusted incomes for workers aged 25 to 54 rose just 1.6% in October, while many older workers saw real earnings decline. Household bank balances remain flat after inflation, with some funds shifting into higher yield accounts. Researchers warn that weak income growth and rising prices, up 3% annually in September, may temper holiday budgets despite strong, unevenly distributed stock market gains.